I gotta push go live. I've been staring at this thing for 5 minutes. So you live and you learn. All I had to do was push go live. So I should be live now. Let's see. It's my first rodeo.
Riverside. Guys, if you're still recording your podcast on Zoom, do yourself a
And they're giving me a commercial already. All right. It's live, folks. If I can just get this thing out of the way. All right, sweet. So here we are. Welcome to my first ever live streaming of a bike race. For those of you that follow me, know that I've been doing some voiceovers for a while now, some commentary, depending on where you're from, of my races, and not that they were getting boring, but I just wanted to do something different, and so the idea actually came up when I was racing, and wanted to give it a try. So hopefully you can see what I'm seeing, which is me in the top right-hand corner and a front-facing camera from Tulsa Tough on the first day, along with the rear-facing camera. And just to set the stage, I've raced Tulsa probably, I think, 8 times, all as an elite racer, as a pro. It was always hard. Racing was always fierce. Each day gets more and more tough. First day is kind of short, fast, flat. Second day has kind of a gradual hill in it with an insane fast downhill to the finish. And then the third day has what we call Crybaby Hill, which is pretty tough. And I never forget my teammate, the first year I ever went there, he took a lap around the course and he came back and he's like, "This ain't for you." Yeah, well, he ended up on the sideline dropping out, and I finished second because there was one guy off the front. But anyway, we're going to get into it. So the lineup was Sharon Smith, Mike Easter, and Steven Salazar. We missed a couple riders due to some family things, but, that's how that goes. We still had to get out there and race. So this is the start of the race, and feel free, hopefully this is working well. Hopefully I'm not just talking, to hop in the chat and let me know what you guys, if you have any questions or whatnot. I do have eyes on the chat. I'm not 100% sure if it's okay. I see what's going on. It's a little delayed. That's fine. All right. So feel free to hop in the chat, ask any questions. So I was going to tell you, I'll go over my mindset when I got here. I flew in the day of, actually. We had a family event here in LA, so I wasn't able to get out a day early. So this race started Friday at 4:30 in the evening, and I actually flew into Oklahoma City, which was about almost 2 hours away. Luckily, Steven Salazar was able to pick me up, and we actually did have time. We wasn't pressed for time. I was off the plane, bike was in the car within like 20 minutes, and we were got to our host house, and I packed my bike, unpacked my bike, got everything ready, and we headed to the race. Now, you don't see the temperature here. I don't have the temperature on the overlay, but Lord have mercy, it was hot, and it got hotter. So we started pretty much maybe the race before us was kind of like the tip top of the heat of the day, but we were right there too. You can see some of the riders when they have this little bulge on the back of their neck. That's some sort of cooling not device, but like something we put back there like ice. We use stockings. You could use a sock, anything to try to keep your core temperature down. It's kind of an old trick. It's for crit racing, it's a little bit too much probably to race in an ice vest, but man, I tell you what, it's a couple of these days it was super hot, and wanted to put an ice vest on. So some of the players, I don't know everyone. The team right here, rider 434 is from Stages. I know some of their riders. I've known their leader for some time, national team coach. Right there on the right side is old man Bart Clifford from LA. Bart is probably 10 years older than me, so it's kind of interesting the way they have the field set up, where it's 40 plus. So you could race, as long as you're 40, you could race. You could race the 1, 2, 3, 40 plus. So I think for him, it's probably good to get out there and get more, better competition. Um, but yeah, you see that is Mike Easter from my team, just floating right there to my left with the camera on his head. That is Steven Salazar. He's our lieutenant. He's always down to do the dirty work, sit on the front, chase things down. He was definitely locked in. Out of the 4 guys we had, he was racing the most aggressive on stage 1. I would tell you that much. I was really trying to just relax and find my legs. If those of you that have traveled the day of on an airplane, sometimes your legs are just not there. And this was one of those days. So I actually think a lot of the field was kind of like looking around, who's going to do what, who's going to be the better guy here, who's going to be the aggressor. And for the most part, there weren't too many aggressors. That is Sharon Smith and his Stars and Stripes kit that he won in the Masters 45s last year. And right in front of him is a guy from Australia who I believe he was in the U.S. a couple years ago racing Intelligentsia and Toad. I think our very first day at Intelligentsia, he beat his head up, and which put, of course, put him on the radar. And very next day, I took Sharon to the last corner, and Sharon beat him. So it's always nice to have really fast guys that you could race against to keep the level high. This particular race, honestly, wasn't that fast. Like I said, I think a lot of people was kind of just kind of looking around, wanted to know who's who. That's my boy right there, 401. Marco Alitti, I've known him for, 15 years or so, out of Ohio, riding for Texas Roadhouse. You would notice, and I don't say this arrogantly, but when you have good riders in the race, you follow the good riders. It's not rocket science. So you would notice that Marco's a sprinter. He followed me around a lot, and I think that was the right move. He did have a couple teammates, but you just never know when you have guys like myself, Sharon, Easter, and other guys within the race. They're the good guys. You have to pay attention to them. So, yeah, I thought he did a great job. He had a little bit of bad luck here. So right now, again, I'm just kind of floating. You can see the speeds are not high. This is a slight uphill, believe it or not, right before it starts going downhill into the second to last turn. For those of you that have done this race, you remember it was reversed. We actually used to come up this street. So pay attention to how, once we get strung out a couple times going through these last bottom turns. Pay attention to how people are actually pedaling through the turn or not pedaling through the turn. And you can see right here, the road starts to kick up right at this street, but it doesn't take a lot out of you because by that time, it's only, 30 meters to the finish and then another 30 meters to the finish line. To the corner, and then you're taking the corner. So right now there's just a little split going off the road, and I'm not really panicking. You can tell I'm in the front. This course is so, I guess, flowy, you could say. If you have any legs within you, you could probably go, no, not probably, you could go out and do like a 2-lap hit, like full noise, no problem, because it's so short and the turns come up so fast. It's actually a little challenging to move up. So if we were going really fast, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but you have to make some dicey moves to move on. This section right here was a great section to make up some ground. There's Dave Casel. He's a strong guy. Definitely have to watch him and see. Like in a normal scenario, I would have just followed him, but I was so apprehensive, and I was also a little. I was just apprehensive. I didn't know what I had, and when you're racing in heat, when you do an effort, it's like someone's suffocating you. If you're not used to this kind of heat and the humidity, you do an effort and it's like you're just like out of breath. And so I was very conscious and cautious of the amount of efforts and how I made efforts. So in this scenario, it worked out. All I had to do was follow the wheels a little bit. and not put a lot of pressure on myself. But look, I'm not even riding that hard, and my heart rate's already at 173 beats per minute, which is it's fairly high for being, only a few minutes into the race. So the goal for the team was to get any one of us, honestly, Salad Bar, Easter, Sharon, or myself, the win. It's only 3 days, so you got to get points early, and you got to stay in the points. So if you can come out of the gates and get a W, that sets you up for the next 2 days. You can have a mishap on the second day and still crush it on the third day, and still be in there. So I'm actually going to go back for a second because I had a conversation with Steven, my teammate Salazar, about how he could be a little bit more proactive and a little more efficient, I should say, when it comes to covering moves. He covers a lot of moves. So you see one guy, two guy. We're not really going yet. There's three guys, and now we're all going to be sliding in. And then Steven comes into the frame, and I told him he needs to pay attention to this. Once the group starts to get absorbed and come back, it doesn't take a lot of effort to either stay on the gas a little bit or just give it a little more to go across to a break or shut something down or keep the pace high. So yeah, I think he rides, he's so used to riding so hard, and it doesn't really bother him if he's taking off from a standstill or not. He's really good at covering moves and going after the moves that's gonna potentially break up the field. And maybe I went back a little bit too far on this, but when it comes up, you can see now everyone's coasting. If you look in the rear view, you can see the back of the field starting to come back together. And these are the times where you use that momentum to just pop across. Like, it's no need to wait. It's no need to sprint. Just use that momentum that the field has already given you to pop across. And that should be coming up pretty soon. Like, if you look in the rear-facing camera, you can see how the field's already starting to come back. It's getting bubbly. You can't tell yet, but look behind me. It's all bubbly. And now this is the perfect time to just keep going. I think I had to take someone off to the curb right there. Marco laughed at him. He did. I think it was the Meteor guy. Sometimes, in races, we all do things that are uncalled for, and then we don't think that it's called for, but they think it's okay, and that's just how it goes. And I got into a couple conversations in the race with some guys that was doing some crazy stuff, and at the end of the race, look, I let it go. So in the race, I have to be honest, you're not my friend, and I can't have friends. I'm there to race, and I take racing seriously. I still have fun, but I still take it very seriously. And so I may say some things that might hurt your feelings during the race, but yeah. Anyway, so this was the part I was talking about where you just, instead of just riding the front right here, it's like just stay on the gas. Maybe pop off to the left. There's always got to be an element of surprise. You know what I mean? Just like riding. We're not in the Tour de France. We don't have 8 guys that can ride tempo, for 150 kilometers. So everything should be explosive, fast, explosive. Very I hate to use the word violent, but that's a good way of describing what the efforts are like. They have to be very violent. And so, but we're working on that stuff. So let me see. I'm gonna check out the chat real quick, see if anything's popping. All right, nothing going on. I'll just. So again, group back together. Racers are just going hard. I mean, there's really nothing that has happened that put our team on the back foot or put anyone on the back foot. You see, we go hard, we slow up. We go hard, we slow up. And that was a perfect example right there of the Kelly Benefits rider using the field, that momentum, to just launch him forward. And now, look, he's halfway across to the second to last turn before we start chasing. And these are the small things, I think, that if my guys can get together and learn how to do and execute, I mean, I'm not gonna say we're unstoppable, but as a team, as a unit, I mean, we haven't even had our full squad together. Jaden and Sharon just finished up Dairyland, 2-man hit squad. They were there for I think 4 days or 5 days, won 3 out of the 5, and it was just two of them. And so you get like Salazar, you get Brian Hill, you get Eric Anderson, myself. Did I miss a crash? I missed a crash. And I remember that crash. So what happened with the crash, as we turn, not this turn, but the next turn, the road was a little uneven. And I think right here, so when you make this right turn on the inside, the road was a little uneven. And I think a rider got caught in there and, yeah, went down. That was pretty much the only dodgy part. And then right here was a hole that someone hit later on in the race, which blew his wheel up. So again, you can see my whole scenario, my whole mindset was to just ride the front, not get too far back. I never went, I don't know, further back than like probably 15 riders. And then when I felt like I was too far back, I would just have to put my nose in the wind a little bit and get back towards the front. And so that's what I did the entire race. So for time's sake, I'm actually gonna forward this a little bit and get towards the meaty part, because we did actually have a break, and it went pretty late in the race. We did a lot of looking around. So here is like, I remember this lap. There was a couple laps when things were going good, and there was a break now of about 5 guys. So the Australian's like, man, I didn't travel thousands of miles. I'm not gonna let, you know, a small group like this get off the front and kill my chances. And notice he's only pedaling like 10 pedal strokes max before he has the coast, because that's how fast the corners come up. So when I was talking about earlier how you could take a 2-lap chop full noise and not kill yourself, you could totally do it. And that line he took right there, this was the money line. Let's go back. Watch this line. I was taking the same line. No one else was taking this line. That was the money line right there between the great and the crack. It just brought you out into that was just a great corner, and he was nailing it. So he's now brought the break back, and you know, like I said, that was a half-lap chop. Everything's back together. Those are things you have to do when you're solo, because if you don't, we had a guy in the break, Stages had a guy in the break, and I believe a couple other teams were represented, so he had to go. So Hecky Bike Adventures, other than that one uneven section of pavement, how was the rest of the pavement surface? Nice potholes, many. Yeah, the surface actually was pretty good. I mean, it's the Midwest, so they have a lot of weathering, right? They get cold, they get hot, they get everything. So it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. I've been on way worse. So I think they picked courses that are, for the most part, fairly safe. I think it was a little bit of oversight on today's course, having that pothole that wasn't filled on the backside, and then having that crease within that turn. But other than that, honestly, the surface, I mean, you can look at it here, the surface was pretty safe, and I'll say pretty good. So here's Mike Easter coming up the inside. The brake is back together, and I tell you what, man, for the last few weeks, Mike Easter has been absolutely crushing it. Just riding strong, riding solid, making all the best moves, and I'm happy he's on my team and not someone else's team, because working against him would make life hard. So here we are again, just kind of looking at each other. I'm telling you, I think the whole theme of today was like, who's who. You know, we don't get a chance to race against each other. My team is based out of Southern California, so we haven't traveled, you know, and so we don't know who's who. There's not really this, you know, the ranking system for masters racing is not that robust, so it's hard to know who's who. And even, you know, you might have some riders in like a national championship jersey, but even then, like, who knows? They could have won a long time ago or something. So when a guy like that attacks, you see I didn't even budge. You know, it was like he attacked from like 8-10 guys back. So the effort he had to make to get past 10 guys to get to the front, you think he can ride off the front? Probably not. So it's like some of the moves are just, they don't make sense, you know, and I don't mind. They can continue to do them all day long. But again, Like these things, they have to be meaningful. And I think when you have the guys that are winning races, solo, sprint, in a group, doesn't matter. I took that line again. You saw that? So hold on, I gotta go back. This guy, every time I touch this thing, it goes back too far. Man, I think I messed up. Oh no, this is it right here. So the rider right in front of Sharon hit that pothole, blew his wheel up, and I thought he was gonna dump it. So I was like, hold on, stop. I had to take the hot route on the outside. Yeah, so that was to Hecky's question. That was like the really only bad spot, which was avoidable, and I also heard they patched it after our race. So once again, we go hard, we sit up, we go hard, we sit up, which was a little annoying because it was hard for me to get my body going. Being that I had traveled all day, I had woke up at 5 o'clock to be at the airport at 6, on a plane by 7, in a car for 2 hours, and then straight to the race. So my body is just, I don't know, wasn't there, and so I'm trying to do everything possible outside of going over the top to warm myself up. A rider to watch for, 383 right there in the blues, Ben Sharp stages. He's one of the guys that can go off the front, and if you get him in the right scenario, he's pretty cagey. He's not the fastest of the sprinters, but he has endurance and he's got a good turn of speed for a guy who's not a full-blown sprinter. So that's a rider you always have to watch. I don't know who Sharon's talking to, but this is just like I think I told him right here, man. We just how you feel. The race is negative, and I was just being annoyed. I like, in a way, I wanted like Steven or Mike Easter to just like go to the front and drill it for like 5 laps, just to like weed it out, kick some of the cobwebs off the legs, and like really make the race hard. So we are 23 minutes in. And by the way, the race was only 36 minutes due to a few reasons. I think 2 races before us, they had crashes, which took forever to get them cleared up and back racing. So that took away from our time. And so they had the pros to go up soon after us. And so, yeah, I think total mileage was like 16 miles. I almost felt like I needed to ride back to Oklahoma City, because a 16-mile crit, I was like junior size. And I was a little disappointed in that. So that's one thing I think they need to account for is, I don't know, this past year at Tulsa, there was a lot of crashes, a lot. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot in the 40 plus. That's why I like racing masters. But like in the 1-2s, the pros and the women, I mean, there were crashes, 4-5s, crashes everywhere. That was just like holding up today. So I don't know what can be done to make it safer. I don't know what it is about the vibe that caused all these crashes. But that it does need to be talked about. It does need to be fixed. Yes, bike racing and crashes kind of, I'm not going to say they go hand in hand. It is inevitable. It will happen. But what can we do to make sure we do everything possible that it don't happen? No one likes to crash. I don't care who you are. You can say you do, but no one likes to crash. So you can see this is probably the furthest I went back, and I was like, oh boy, all right, this is too far back. I'll miss a move. I got to keep moving. So I just started to use the corners to make up some time, get back to a place where I felt was safe, just like here. Got a little bit of space on the left-hand side, push through the corner. Look at that, just made up 8 spots just like that. I mean, like, yeah, I love doing this. And look, I'm at the front just like that. So, all right, we're going forward a little bit because things start to get a little fast. So I'm gonna go to where I think the break went. So things are starting to go down. So it was so interesting. Once we started riding hard, you could see a lot of riders were kind of like, that means they're not good. And I didn't have it in me to keep going. I'm telling you, I was so nervous about like making this big effort and not being able to recover. I was extremely nervous. So this is where things get busy. Stages sends a guy, and then Mike Easter in the saddle hits the gas. Here's a Stages rider, 414. So we have the same idea. All right, we're just gonna ride, fake pedal a little bit. We can see if we can get these guys off the front. a three-man break. He's represented. I'm represented. I'm not sure who the third rider was. He actually hasn't latched on yet, so I'm happy. But then you start. This is what happens. You start getting those ones and twosies. So now you have two, you have one in the middle, and you have one right in front of us. Um, I think I like what he was trying to do. Kind of keep him close, but not too close to where the break would come back. Um, and it worked, right? So now they're starting to slip off the front a little bit. I look over to my right. Now I'm starting to close off the inside. I don't want anybody to come inside of me, but now there's more riders going across the top. So this is where I think my team missed out. We should have had at least one other guy following that fourth move. So now you're gonna have, was it five? One, two, three, five riders off the front, and we only have one rider. Um, so those are not good odds, right? You want to have at least two riders in that group of five to make sure that we're safe. So these riders haven't really got across to the break yet, and Texas Roadhouse is chasing, doing a great job, throwing down the hammer right here, and you can see if you look in the rear-facing camera, it's strung out. Dave Case was on my wheel. He's in a good spot because I guarantee you, if I move, he moves just like that. He's a smart guy like that. He understands the dynamic of the race. But here it is, we're slowing down. In a perfect scenario, Saran pops across right there. As soon as we slow down, with his speed, no one's going to catch him. They would have to chase. And so, yes, we may have killed the break, but at least we're back in a power position. This move that's going on right now, we're not really in a power position. We're one out of 5 or 6 riders, and so, if those riders decide to get together and race against us, Mike Easter will be having a hard time up there. So at this point, I thought Aussie Man was gonna do another digger, but I'm telling you again, I'll probably keep saying it. And I'm not sure how his body was reacting to the heat, but it was really challenging to take these efforts and then recover. So you almost have to bank on, if you're gonna make an effort, that no one's gonna counter you and you miss out, because what sense does it make for a rider like myself or anyone else, for that sake, to go across or bring the field across, and then as soon as we get there, the field come back together, you get attacked, and then you miss the next move. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why this bike racing stuff, it's a lot of it is a gamble. You're gambling on if a brake's gonna make it or if they're not, if I should chase, if I should jump across. So you're always trying to figure out what's gonna be your best gamble. This guy, this guy came inside of me 408, and he did something shady earlier in the race. And at this point, I'm yelling at him. I'm like, dude, you can't keep doing stuff and then saying sorry. It's like, oh, I stole from you. Sorry, I didn't know. Oh, my bad. And I stole from you again. Oh, sorry. So he kind of pissed me off a little bit. Steve B, how hot? I think it was about 101. But the humidity was crazy. All right, we are almost done here. We have about 5 minutes left in this race, and the break is still off the front. They got to the point where they were just literally looking at each other, and I figured they're gonna come right back, because Mike pretty much said after the race, look, I'm not gonna work my butt off because I have Sharon and Rasan back there, which is honestly, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have said the same thing, especially if you're outnumbered. So what he did was the correct thing. Just kind of rolled through, didn't ride hard in the break, and saved everything. Nigel asked, do you think it's better in this situation to let a few guys in front of you so you can respond better to attacks? Yeah, absolutely. So you can see where I'm riding. And that's a very good point. I bring this up to my teammates too. It's like sometimes you could ride way too far forward. And what I mean by that, if you're always riding second, third wheel, you can't really monitor what's going on behind you. And so the scenario of when the race is going hard and then the front is starting to slow up, if you're third wheel and the front's starting to slow up, you're now, let's just say you're going 20 miles an hour. The back of the field is still going 25 miles an hour. If someone wants to attack you from 8, 10 riders back, you're already at a disadvantage because that rider's going 5 mile an hour faster than you. And now, so you have to go from 20 to 30, where they only have to go from 25 to 30, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is a good point. It's you have to know kind of when to ride in the front, when not to ride in the front, and I'm a big fan of letting riders get in between. I tell that to my guys sometimes. Actually, hey, I'm gonna hit out real hard, let a couple guys in between. That way you can set them up to go across. So we should be getting down to maybe this is like, I think this is 2 to go. Let me see. I couldn't see, but I think it's 2 to go, and the break is gone now. We're not going to catch them. We can kind of see them on one of the longer turns, but you can see our field, we're not motivated. So now you're like, all right, 6 guys off the front. Do you light it up and take some points, or do you just keep it safe and get out of the way? And so right here, I was actually thinking about getting out of the way. But then I see Steven on the front. I see Sharon's there. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll get back in it. I'll try to grab some points or lead Sharon out for some points. And yeah, this is a lap and a half to go. So Sally thinks he's leading the whole field. The field actually let him sit up, which I was surprised because it gets more dangerous when we're going slow. So at this point, Sally's like, "Oh, what's up? I'm chasing for you. Why don't you guys follow?" So we finally get there, but by this time, it's really hard to go hard, stop, and then go hard. Like that restart is very challenging. And I was on one of the toughest parts of the course because it was a headwind and a slight uphill. So I'll explain what I was thinking on the last lap right here. So I'm riding inside of one of the fastest guys. And right here, when he's out of the saddle, I stayed in the saddle. I'm just thinking, this is great. He's just using energy. And you will see my head every now and then kind of look to the left, look to the right. I want to make sure I'm not getting swarmed. I purposely swung all the way off to the right there so no one can come on the outside of me. And so these last 2 turns actually that's coming up, this one is pretty pivotal because you could make up some spots right here. So I make sure I stayed inside so no one came. And then this is where I had to get a little crafty. Sharon pops up in my rear view right there, and he's talking to me. So now I know he's there. So I poke out just a little bit. You see, I move right. That was basically a pump fake to the stages guy. He thought I was going to go right. So the field moved right. I went left. And at this point, I'm just thinking, I'm going to go as hard as I can and get Sharon to the corner. So remember earlier in the race, I was talking about how people was taking the corner. This second to last corner was one of the fastest corners, but almost no one was bombing it when we were going. When we were going fast, everyone was coasting. So in my mind, I knew that if I had to ride hard, that I could ride hard through the bottom 2 corners because no one was pedaling fast or pedaling when we were going fast. So right here, Dave Casel's on my wheel. He's only a bike length off of me. And the reason I gapped him, 1, yes, I was in a good cadence going up over the little riser. But 2, in his mind, and he even told me this, in his mind, he's like, he's got to start coasting eventually because the corner's coming up. But what he didn't know is that I didn't coast. So 36 miles an hour, I think my peak in the saddle was just under 800 watts. So this is where the gap starts to grow because he's starting to coast and I'm still on the pedals. I never let off the pedals, And then when I got here, it was continued pedal, 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 all the way to the finish line. And you can see the finishers up there. Mike Easter won, and I won the field sprint, and then Sharon came in for, I think, 7th or 8th. So I was either 6th and 7th. But it was a good day, all in all. So, yeah, that's it. Let's see if I can do something different. There we go. yeah, that's my first live YouTube race scenario, commentary, whatever you want to call it. Looking forward to your feedback. I will make a podcast out of this and be able to listen. Um, Got another question here though. When you race now, how do you decide if you or Sharon leads out? I could imagine you still enjoy a win. You know, Steve, that's a good question. I actually don't mind leading out Sharon. The funny thing is, Sharon don't know how to do a lead out. Seriously, all BS aside, and I think he can learn how to do it. But there's just certain things some racers are not good at, and there's things I'm not good at. He's not good at leading out, and I think part of the reason I like doing it is because I got lead outs for so many years. I know exactly what it feels like. I know exactly what it needs to feel like. I know exactly how it needs to go, and so yeah, and it's a win-win. You know, I'll get my wins. I've gotten my wins, but as an organization, it doesn't matter who wins. To be honest with you, if we're winning, anyone in our black and yellow winning, we all winning. So that's where we at. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, last question. Bryce, how did the weather affect the race? The weather affected the race tremendously. It was super hot, super humid, and as the weekend went on, it worsened. So if you guys want to see another one tomorrow, maybe, or the next day, I have stage 2 and stage 3 that I can do. Let me know. All right. Thanks for watching.